All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angela Ambers Henderson, and I'm serving currently as the Associate Director of Admissions for the University of Houston Law Center. Welcome to our weekly, sort of bi-weekly Wednesday Ask the Experts webinar. And tonight I feel like I'm a host. Okay, I'm Jimmy Fallon. So this afternoon, we are being joined by Tiffany Tucker, who is fabulous in all that she does relative to career services. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, tell you a little bit about her background, what the Career Services Office has to offer. And then if you have questions at that point, I want to leave time for you. Just raise your virtual hand or your real hand, and we'll take it from there. Tiffany.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Angela, for that introduction. You can just call me Tiff. That's completely fine. My name is Tiffany Tucker, and by way of background, I have a background in psychology and sociology and master's in counseling, and was a mental health therapist for a number of years before transitioning to the area of law. So law was a second career for me. And I was very interested in intellectual property, even though I didn't have a science background. It was great to learn that you didn't have to have one in order to practice in that field. And then I went and practiced in New York at a very conservative, what's considered a white shoe firm, typical big law firm, and did transactional intellectual property and corporate work. I did that for a number of years, while at the same time, I was doing a lot of what I do now, mentoring, speaking with students and other lawyers about their career and professional development, helping to provide reviews for resumes and cover letters, conducting mock interviews, helping students and lawyers to brand and market themselves so that they could be gainfully employed. And as I was doing my job at the law firm, I thought, this is really cool. Money's great. My friends are awesome. Do I care as much about the contracts as I do about this work on the side? And my answer was no. And so I figured out a way to go and get paid for this. And since my family is in Texas and my mother was getting older, and I was already thinking about moving closer to home, I moved back down to Texas and started with the Career Development Office and have been here for almost 10 years this summer. And if you ask me, what is my dream job? This is literally my dream job. It combines both of my former careers, and I get to talk to people like you guys all day, and I absolutely love it. So that's a little bit about me. I can't wait to answer some questions. What do you guys have for me today?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My name's Lucy Jayala. I'm starting this fall, and I have a question because I'm really interested in doing big law. So happy to hear that you have experience with that as well. I know that it's not likely for one else to do intern after their first year, but is there any way that we could work with your office, or what are the best practices if we're interested in having a big law internship after the first year?
What a great question. Let me just tell you, one of the things I love about my job is that I get to work with admissions, but I don't have to be in admissions because I just get to tell y'all the real deal. Like, you are asking questions I didn't even know to ask when I was in your position. I didn't know what big law was. I didn't know the differences in, the salaries, or to even ask the questions that you're asking. So I'm glad you're asking them, and I'm going to help to shed some light just in case we have anyone on our call today who may not be as well researched as you. So Lucy referred to a big law job. That is essentially a job with a large law firm. Those are typically the firms that they will have a general practice. They will do a lot of different types of litigation, as well as transactional or corporate work. Litigation is basically when entities or individuals have disputes and there's court involved. Transactional work typically involves some sort of contract where people, individuals, entities are coming together to build something, sell something, buy something, that kind of thing. So big law firms are typically considered the ones depending on who you ask, there's no technical term because big law, just like every other word, is a made up word, but big law, BIGLAW, as you'll see it, typically are going to be the ones that start first year associates at what's considered a very high salary, considering we know so little when we leave law school, right? Because you learn on the job. These days, the top big law firms are starting associates, first year associates at around $215,000 a year coming out of law school. So you're going to hear a lot about big law, and that's why, really, because of the money you can make coming right out of law school. Now, in order to best position yourself for a big law position, to your question, Lucy, it really depends on your grades in law school primarily, and especially your first semester and first year grades. So different schools will have students that are recruited at different levels in their rankings based on several different factors. One of them is rankings. Typically, for example, Ivy League schools, T14 schools, well, mostly Ivies, those students will be recruited, quite honestly, no matter what their grades are. Some of those schools don't even give grades because they feel like, hey, you got in here, so you already passed the test, you can get a job wherever you want. Then you have other T14. And when I say T14, I mean in the US News and World Report rankings, again, things I didn't know. The schools that are in like the top 14 schools, right? Big law definitely recruits outside of that range, but just to give you the difference of what it looks like for students at the various schools. So some schools, big law will recruit all of them. Some schools, big law won't even recruit at. And then there are plenty of schools in the middle. We fall into some of the schools in the middle where typically big law firms recruit our students when they are ranked at, on average, around top 20%. You're pretty much guaranteed to get interviews. You're pretty much guaranteed to be able to apply for these jobs and get as many interviews as you want or can handle. But big law firms also go deeper in our class. They've been going deeper and deeper over the years, since I've been here. So 20%, you're perfect. 25, so you're still really, really good. You're going to get an interview with probably most of the firms you want to get interviews with, and so on. It kind of goes from there. 33%, yes. 40%, yes. 50% for some of them, yes. So generally, if you're in the top half, you have a strong chance. You have the strongest chance of getting at least interviews with these firms if you're in the like top 20, 25%. Now, to your point about first summer associate position. So big law will have typically some 1L positions. They're doing it a little bit more and more these days. And if you want to work at a big law firm your first summer, so the summer after your first year, then your grades from first semester have to be really, really high. Typically, they'll recruit at a higher, higher in the rankings for the students than 2L recruiting. So 1L recruiting, I would say if you're in the top 10%, top 10 ranked, maybe top 15%, got a pretty good chance. We have a 1L OCI in the spring in January, right after you get your first semester grades, and those are for those 1L summer positions. But if you need a little more time to figure things out in law school, as many people do, and you're not in that range, you still will be working over the summer, right? The only way you won't work in a legal position is if you refuse to apply or you refuse to update your resume or practice your interviewing, the basic things that anyone in the world needs to do when they're looking for a job, right? And we give you those tools. So you will be working. So a few will be working in big law. More will be working in public interest, government, small and mid-sized firms, some companies in legal positions. The primary goal for the first summer is just to get substantive legal experience. It literally does not matter what you do. So if you're big law focused, any job in any of those arenas are just fine. Now, if you need to make money, just FYI, big law, when you're there working with them for the summer, you get paid what a first year associate gets paid for the time that you're there. So you basically are making $215 prorated for the number of weeks that you'll be there. So that's why, again, you'll hear all about it and people will be aiming for it and all of that. But the small and mid-sized firms pay. Companies pay anywhere from law firms on average, pay is $15 to $20 an hour. For corporations, it's higher, usually anywhere from $25 to $35 an hour. Nonprofit agencies and government organizations, they typically are unpaid. You're working for the experience. However, Dean Baines is very adamant to support our public interest focused law students and alums. And so we have a summer public interest fellowship that gives students that work for government or public interest agencies a stipend basically for the summer. I believe it's about $4,000 to $4,500 for the summer to give you at least something. You can also work for a judge. Those are also typically unpaid, but you can get academic credit. And for government and public interest agencies, you can also choose to get academic credit as opposed to getting paid. You have to choose one or the other. Essentially, if you want to work in big law as early as possible, blast out your first semester grades. Get as high as you can. I mean, top 10 ranked, top 10% if you possibly can. That's going to give you your best chance to get a big law job your first summer. If you don't do that, I don't care if you are DL in the class, dead last, you will be working in the summer because most attorneys understand. All attorneys really know this, but most attorneys will tell you your grades in law school don't reflect the type of lawyer you'll be. The reason big law pays the amount that pays the salary that they pay for incoming associates, it's not because it's not because they're smarter. It's not because they're better. It's because they charge exorbitant amounts for their services to their clients. And they need to be able to say, well, we got the best and the brightest attorneys. And all clients really understand is that, well, they were at the top of the class. They're not going to understand the other things that you bring to the table. Later in life, they will. I literally just worked with one of my alums from 2017, whose grades were a little below, let's just say 60%, top 60%, 70%. She went to a small firm, lateral to another small firm, and then just did something completely amazing, which is had a trial in the L&E world in labor and wage, in the labor and wage arena. That typically does not happen, but she not only had it, but she won it. And she worked with a partner who had been in the game for 15 years, literally had never gone to trial. Like, these things never go to trial. And not only did she do it, but she won it. And she just had an interview with a big law firm that would not have looked at her with her grades when she first came out. But because of her experience, then they can sell to their clients, we are bringing this person in because she's amazing at what she does. And then grades don't matter as much, right? So how do you best position yourself? Do well in your law school exams. And that's something not as the assistant dean for career development, but just as Tiffany, the former law student who struggled. When I say I struggled, I mean, for 4 months, every semester, I was lost. I was wondering, teacher, what was that question? I don't understand it. You, classmate, what's that answer you're giving? And how did you understand that question? Like, it was so confusing. My brain just did not work the way law school was taught. But what I figured out was how to write a law school exam. That is the key. We can talk about that more later. That's more academics. But in terms of working, if you want big law, bang out your first semester for first summer. If you want it, ultimately, bang out your grades for first year and be ready to apply right before your second year for those law school jobs that you'll have your second summer. And that's when they make those permanent postgraduate offers. Did that answer the question? Any follow-up? Anybody have any questions on anything I just said? I know I just laid a lot on you, much more than you asked, I like to answer questions like I wish they would have been answered for me if I had known to ask them back then.
I have one kind of follow-up question on that, Tiffany, and thank you so much for your time and for everyone's time today. I was under the impression that there might have to be some resume writing, cover letter writing, and possibly some job searching in the first semester of the 1L year for summer. And I was just wondering if you could just quickly walk us through a timeline. If you can just, a quick summary, maybe like what you should do each month, starting in like October, November, December, January. Yep. And then I have another question, but I'm going to let Deborah ask that one if we have time for it.
Okay, great. So the question is, what types of job searching activities should you anticipate having in your very first semester? So, excellent question. So we, as a career development office, we have what we call career counselors. We have all different types of titles, but ultimately we're all JDs, we're all attorneys, we've all practiced in some capacity. And we understand that the first semester is crucial. Essentially, even if you've never known about Big Law, and they're not on your radar, then most people, especially most of us who go to law school, don't want any options taken away from us, right? So when I found out about it, I was like, well, don't go telling me that I can't have it. And so there's certain things you can do to best position yourself for the different types of jobs that you might be looking for all along the way, right? So first semester, we will have a couple of sessions of our mandatory 1L Passport to Development Professional Development Series. Nope, Passport to Success. That's what I get for trying to think about it. Passport to Success Professional Development Series. It's a series of 1-hour programming that we require our 1Ls to either attend virtually or live when things can be live, or to watch by a certain time. And it gives you those basics. We also give you a handbook and all that. But the gist is, when you come in, we will provide that initial training, give you the lay of the land from a legal career development standpoint during orientation. Then in September and October, you will have access to career panels where we will have attorneys discussing what they do, so you can learn more about what's out there. We'll also teach you those things, but still, you're not doing anything yet with us. Until I want to say we moved it up last year to be maybe soon after Labor Day. The concept of having you wait just a bit before you can come in and see us is to get you acclimated to law school, because it's a lot. I was an excellent student. I was what my mother called a professional student, with all of my, degrees and letters after my name. But I also would write a paper in a night and study all night and then make over 100 and be mad if I made a 99. Like, I was that student. In law school, nah, dog, you can't do that. I am diagnosed with ADHD. I got diagnosed when I was in law school because, much like many other mental health disorders, they are triggered by certain environmental events sometimes. And for me, it was the volume of the work. I can handle volume for psychology because everything in the psychology book made sense to me, right? Oh yeah, that makes sense. Flip, write a paper and I'm done. Well, with the sheer volume of work, you have to absorb, learn how to absorb, learn how to even put together in a way you can understand, and then be able to apply it for each of the classes. That's tough. So we give you some time at the beginning of the semester. You're not meeting with us just yet. You're getting used to your classes, your professors. You're learning how to become a law student. Then September, October, depending where the date falls, then you can start meeting with us one-on-one. Every single law student has a designated career counselor who is an attorney, who is your assigned counselor. You meet with them just the first time, and then you can talk to anybody else in the office that you want to, because we all bring various things to the table. But that counselor is assigned to you for the entire rest of the time that you're in law school. And then I'm the alumni counselor. I provide services forever and for free. So you meet with your CDO counselor, then you start talking about your goals. If you are interested in Big Law specifically, there is a date. It used to be December 1st everywhere. It was just a drop date. They call it the drop date for big law firms. That changed because the organization that put that date out there recognized that they could get in trouble for antitrust law. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so each school now designates their date, their own date. Our date is November 1st. So basically, before November 1st, you are not to have recruiting contact with employers. You can network with them. Say you meet a contact, you see a lawyer on a panel, you want to have an informational interview with them. All of that is fine. But in terms of submitting an application for an actual job or an employer soliciting you to submit for a position, that can't happen until November 1st. So you can be working with our counselors to update your resume, turn it into a legal resume, get it all polished up and party, so that come November 1st, if you decide that you want to apply early to big law firms, you can. Now, there are pros and cons to this, and we tell you this as we are giving you this information. Pro, some firms love to get those super early applications so that they can just see the talent that's out there, put some people on the watch list. But there is a grade threshold for big law firms. Remember that. So they may be interested, but are they going to choose you, or may they just interact with you? They may even decide to interview you, but I will guarantee you, you will not get that offer until your grades come out. Your grades don't come out until January, right? Well, I say I can't guarantee you that you'll never. Rarely, on some very, very rare occasions, there are some folks with very specialized backgrounds, typically in engineering and specifically in electrical engineering, that some big law firms will take a chance and go ahead and make an offer to. And that's because people with engineering backgrounds have a bit of a lower threshold for what big law looks for in terms of grades. And that's because in law school, it's an even playing field. It's the great leveler, right? No matter what you come in with, you certainly could have a business background, econ background, do a little better in corporate law and that kind of thing. But otherwise, being a law student is just being a law student, except for engineers who actually do have a specialization that they bring into the legal practice, right? All right. But for the most part, most students, they'll engage with you, but they won't make offers until you have your grades in January, right? So you can absolutely work with our office to get all your documents updated and exactly how you want them to be so they can be the strongest possible. And you can plan to blast out you're just sending your resume and a cover letter. We help you with that as well, to the big law firms that you're interested in. And we have the list of the ones that, recruit with us all the time. All right. So pro, the firms see you sooner. Pro, they may put you on a list to reach out or to invite you to some events that typically don't happen until after finals anyway. I've only heard one firm ever in life say, we take all of the resumes that are sent to us on the drop date, and then the rest are kind of in the maybe pile, and we just focus on these. Most of them don't do that. They don't care. So the con is you're taking time and energy away from your study for your exams. You can't get the job without the high grade. So do you take the time now, or do you do what we recommend, which is right after finals, jump right into it? You guys get 3.5 or so weeks off for the winter break. We get 1.5. So we're still there and we're helping you. So if you wanted to not look at any application, anything until then, that's fine. There might be a couple of special opportunities that you may want to just focus on. Say someone, you have a contact at a particular firm. Yeah, that one you go ahead and put your application materials together. We'll help you. Or there are a few government honors program kind of things. They'll have an early application. But for the most part, all of the employers will take your application right after finals. Yep, take a break, go party, do whatever you're going to do, get some sleep. And then that next day, jump into your applications. We can help you with that, right? So over the winter break is where we strongly recommend most 1Ls do their 1L summer kind of shopping for jobs in the way that you're going to do them, depending on the type of employer. And then we also have in January an actual OCI specifically for 1Ls, specifically with these big firms. So you also could just wait until then. It's good to get it in before then because they do have holiday parties and they want to network sometimes. And so it's good to go ahead and get the applications out. You may also still bid during January OCI, But the fall essentially is just attending the programs that we put on so you can gather the information for how it's done, what you need to be thinking about. We'll reiterate the timeline over and over, and then plan to, right after finals, jump right into most of it, except for the few exceptions that you may have for specialized contacts or something like that. Does that answer the question?
100%. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, Deborah, you had a question. Oh, wait, you're muted. That is like the phrase, the quote of the last 2 years. I think I might be saying that in person the next time we have an event in person. I'm sorry, you're muted. I can't hear you in the back row. Happens to everybody.
I always forget to mute myself.
Me too. We all do.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you again.
Hi.
So far, I've had like really great notes. My question was, so regarding Big Law, so that's definitely the route I know I'd want to do some kind of business or corporate law. But I'm curious. So if, for example, your first year, like your first summer, you're not able to get that opportunity, and let's say you do something like, you know, you're interested more in doing like academic work, because I enjoy writing. So I'm thinking more of like doing maybe research my first year. Would that hurt my chances in getting into Big Law for like the second summer, or no?
No, it won't. Let me say, big law firms, we understand that there are very few 1L big law positions. They don't even expect you to work in big law your first summer. They, and all legal employers, expect you to do something that is substantive and legal. They want to see you in some way apply the knowledge that you gained in your classes. I promise, public interest, government, family law, criminal, all kinds of things that they don't even touch. The point is that you can, in a real world situation, apply what you've learned in class. So when you go in for OCI, so OCI is a term that if you haven't heard, you'll hear it a lot. It stands for on-campus interviews. As it's defined, or whatever it's the acronym for, it really could be any employer that comes to campus and interviews on campus, right? But it's typically used to refer to the larger firms. And it truly is just one of the ways that employers interview. They can do what's called OCI, on-campus interviews, where they come to campus. Typically, it's been virtual for the last couple of years, but we're going to have a hybrid this year. So they'll come to class, do on-campus interviews. Those will be like 15 to 20 minute screener interviews where employers, typically the biggest of the big law firms, will send whatever alums we have at the firm, if they're able to come. And they will have these back-to-back 15 to 20 minute interviews with candidates. And then they'll make a decision about how many of those candidates they'll invite to what they call callbacks. That's where you just get called back into the actual firm to meet more people at the firm. Then the people vote on you, and then you see if you got the position, right? So mind you, that's the end of your 1L summer. So you need something to go into your Rising 2L, same summer, those two Rising 2L OCI interviews, because that's the best time, easiest time, most advantageous time to get into big law. It's really just because that OCI recruiting timeline and machine just works for big law. They are big enough and make enough money and have enough clients to be able to anticipate what their needs are going to be 2 years down the line. Because think about it. You just finished your first year. You worked anywhere that has legal and substantive work to do. Research, writing, even if you're interested in transactional, you did something litigation. If you're interested in litigation, but you did something transactional, it's all applying the law. So it's okay, right? So when you go into these interviews right before your 2L year, you need to be able to articulate what you did. Why? Because it's the audition for the job. Any legal job you have will incorporate, will have these components. You'll have some sort of supervisor, supervising attorney of some sort, who will tell you, okay, we've got this client, we've got to do this thing, or there's this issue and we've got to solve it in some way. Here's the overall strategy of the case or deal. Here's what I want you to do to help. You're going to go off and do that thing. You're going to come back and you're going to tell them what you learned or what you gained, what you found, what you wrote, whatever it is. And then you're going to give them some kind of recommendation. This is what I think we should do for next steps. Or you're going to ask them based on what I found, what you should. It's all of that means that you are auditioning for a job. So no matter what you're talking about, what legal issue you research, if it has nothing to do with what they do, it's your ability to relay what we call the STAR method. Basically, what I just described is called the STAR method. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. And it is that structure that is given to an interview answer so that you know you have given them what they're looking for a couple of reasons. One, because that's how it's going to be to work with you, right? When you come back and tell them what you learned after they give you an assignment, say you're working with them, they're not going to remember what they talked to you about. You can't come in there and tell me, so I was on the Johnson deal. And so I found, I'm going to be like, what Johnson deal? I'm working on 7 Johnson deals and I barely remember what I had for breakfast this morning. So I'm going to need you to remind me of what you're even talking about. That's the situation. You come back and you set that up again for me. Then you remind me of what your task was. Because again, I won't remember, right? Then you're going to tell me what you did, what you found. And that R is results. So when you have those moments in your 1L summer, and then you relay them to those 2L interviewers, that's their way to know that you can apply what you learned. And then it's going to be easy to work with you. I literally, when I interviewed for my firm, would think, oh, I would love her to do these assignments in back of my desk. It would just be delightful because I love the way she summarizes things. She explains things that I don't even know about. I don't know what she's talking about right now, but she explained it very clearly, right? I'm a true to life transactional attorney. You talk about things that have to do with litigation, my eyes may glaze over. But if I'm interviewing you and you can explain what you did over your summer and it was a litigation project and I get it, I'm like, oh, I want him, bring him back. He's on top of my list, right? So you work during that 1L summer to learn not only how to apply the law, but then how to convey to whatever your next targeted employer is, whoever they are, convey that you have an ability to then do the lawyering work and also convey it to them. So does not matter what you do the first summer, paid, unpaid, whatever type it is, does not matter. Because when you go into your 2L interviews that start with OCI, that continue, we're very, proud to talk about, continue with all of our recruiting programs that cater to other types of employers, small and mid-sized firms, corporations, the other big one, government and public interest. We have those annual programs. When you get into your 2L summer, you're able to participate in every single one of them. But whatever you do your 1L summer, that's what you're going to be talking about in all of those interviews. And it does not matter that it's not what they do. So you will not disadvantage yourself if you are not in a law firm. Doesn't matter as long as you're doing substantive work where you can get to research and write, where you can get to possibly work on, some contracts. But it doesn't matter. It will not pigeonhole you, for example, if you're very interested in transactional work, if you do all litigation your first summer, because transactional jobs are harder to find. People always want to fight, right? That's litigation all day. People don't always want to or have the money to, we saw what happened in COVID, to come together and build things and, make deals. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Good deal. I see Lucy's hand. Want to make sure I'm getting everybody. Lucy, please. Oh, how am I, Marisha or Angela, on time? Oh, we can't. You're muted. Angela, you're muted.
That whole mute. I want you to be able to say that again, right? I want you to say that when you see me in person too, right?
I will.
Love it. So we are actually over the time. However, I see Lucy's hand. I want to give everybody else the opportunity to ask a question if there is one. So does anybody have a question who has not had the opportunity to ask a question yet? Okay, not hearing none. We'll go back to Lucy and then I'll let you give some maybe closing remarks. Tiffany? Awesome.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, Lucy, lay it on us. All great questions, by the way. I'm just so impressed with you guys already. Seriously.
Just one tiny question about what she said about that November 1st deadline, like no soliciting. Yes. Does it count like for the summer right now if we're not technically enrolled in school until August, or will that still go against that?
So you're asking if you could apply to law firms to work this summer before you start as a law student?
No, I'm saying, I think you said that you shouldn't be like contacting them beforehand. So like you said, you could do like light networking. So is it okay to do that before we start school? Just like adding on LinkedIn or messaging like, hey, absolutely. Just that kind of question.
Yes. Let me tell you, this is a networking. The law is a people business. And I don't know if you know this, but lawyers love to talk about themselves. Okay. So you could be researching firms, and I would strongly recommend this actually. You reach out to whatever student or lawyer you find doing the kind of work that you want to do, who attended or who graduated from University of Houston Law Center, or even your undergrad, right? Oh my God, I had a student who reached out to me because she went to my undergrad and she was thinking about another law school. I still want to help her. I don't have any skin in the game where you go for law school, but just because you're part of my undergrad, I'm happy to help. So typically, and it's a thing in the legal field for people that you do not know to find your bio on your firm's website or to find your LinkedIn page and to read about what you do and hear about see your background and to just message you directly and say, hey, I've been admitted to University of Houston Law Center. I see that you're an alum. I read more about your bio and I am very interested in what you do. I would love to have just a brief call or meeting or virtual meeting, whatever is convenient for you for, just a little quick 15-minute chat. If you wouldn't mind, just so that I can learn more about you and how you got to where you are and how you figured out what you were interested in. And I would say, strongly recommend you always give them your general availability instead of saying, let me know when you're available, because it's a hassle. What am I going to do? I'm going to go through so I'm available 1 to 2:30, then I'm available 3 to 3:07. And then tell them your availability and then let them choose. That just makes that right away. That makes you stand out as a candidate because you're making it easy for them to help you. Right. Then when they choose the time, then you go ahead and send a calendar invitation, whether it's for a phone call or for a Zoom call or for a meeting or whatever it is. That is welcomed. If you reach out and if you don't hear anything back, 100% okay. Don't take it personally. My mentor told me the main mantra I need to remember is ABB, always be billing. That's so we can make my money, pay our bills. But since I like doing this kind of stuff on the side, I always responded. Other attorneys, most attorneys want to respond, but if they're in the middle of, life and it's crazy, it may take them a minute. Also, they may lose the email. So following up is a thing. Say you send that email, you didn't hear anything. You're like, wah, wah, they didn't want to talk to me. Usually not. Usually it got swamped, or maybe it was like it was at my firm. If we didn't do something with an email in our inbox within 21 days, it would just get deleted. Because they didn't want to be held accountable for some random thing we saved. And then who knows, somebody asked for discovery about something and then there it is sitting there. So they could have lost it. You put on your calendar to follow up in say 2 weeks. And all you do is you forward that email and say, hey, I know you must be incredibly swamped. I'm just touching base again, just in case you had a break in your schedule again, and just remind them why you're reaching out. But I totally understand if you're too swamped, if there's a better time for me to reach out, I'm happy to reach out in a month, that kind of thing. Or if there's someone else you'd recommend I talk to, they typically want to help and they want to connect. And I will say this, you guys can get a job this summer at a law firm if you want to. I mean, we don't do a whole bunch of help with that because, you got to come on to school. I got hundreds of students, what I'm saying. I say that, but I'll kind of help. So email me directly, that's fine. But there are plenty of students who will just cold call, email an alum and say, hi, I'm an incoming admitted student to Law Center. I would love to work this summer in a legal environment. I was wondering if, you at your employer, or about anyone who has an opportunity for just an intern or, something like that. All of that stuff, do whatever you want to before you come to school. And then there's some rules for your own benefit. Okay, did I answer your question that time? Okay, and the networking is fine the whole time, but you can ask for, ask about jobs and things like that before you start school as a law student. Then you got to cut it out, because you will want to cut it out, trust me, because you need to learn how to be a law student. And again, email me directly. I'm happy to talk about anything else at any other time. We can have a personal chat about all those good things. I'm happy to at any time. Okay.
Hey, Tiffany, do you think you can drop your contact information in the chat? Okay.
Something I can do.
Awesome.
I think I'm talented enough to do such a thing. If it ends up being wrong, you can just laugh at me.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time. And I got 12:44, so we're going to kind of wrap this up. I do want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to put in a plug for our future sessions. Take a look at our website if you are interested. We've had several sessions since the beginning of this year. If you didn't have an opportunity to participate, they have been recorded, so the recording link should be there as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next session or on campus in the fall. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tiffany.
Great to meet and see you guys. Hit me up anytime. Looking forward to seeing you.